been chased out of the centre of the Antifa protest. We just have been walking through the centre of Trafalgar Square, and already Antifa have been crowding around us, calling us Nazis, screaming at the camera. The police have surrounded us.
What? Are we allowed to report on a demonstration? Yeah, it's your, obviously, officers, I'd like if you just keep the violence at minimum from the fascists. George, we're going to report this way on the demonstration, come on. So the reason why we've come here today is to try and report a true observation of what's happening today. And so far, we've seen, well, this looks very calm and orderly, but down there, we've just seen violence and fascism. So yeah, I'll explain that loads of people with their faces covered, screaming, acting aggressively, holding sticks. Now, will you report on that? Will any of you people report the truth of what's happened today? You won't, will you? So we'll look out for the stories from all of you journalists who are all lying to the general public about the truth of what happens at demonstrations like. So this is where we get the violence, yeah? Every time, look. Excuse me. Can I talk to you? Excuse me, can I ask you a question?
Racist twats, you cannot ask these questions.
What's wrong with you? I don't understand. Was going to nick me for what?
You're breaching the peace thing.
I'm not breaching the peace.
I know. All we said is just go straight to your car.
Go or I'll get nicked? Yeah. That's insane. Go or I'll be arrested. I haven't done anything.
Conditions, he said I don't.
Did you do that? You'll be arrested. I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything. I'm not part of this organisation. Yeah? I'm here to report the truth on what's happened at this demonstration today. I'm now being threatened with arrest by the British police for simply doing that.
Antifa and their allies don't understand the fight they're trying to start. So because the lefties' Antifa commies can't behave reasonably or civilly in a public space, journalists behaving peacefully and asking questions have to leave? Because a bunch of morons have decided to label people they disagree with as Nazis and literally make up a bunch of inane rhetoric to justify violence in support of that label, reasonable and calm journalists have to be forced by the police to leave. Useful idiots demonstrate they lack the basic civil skills to simply not attack people, and the cops take their side and run someone else off. Not the people who are threatening violence, not the people who run around breaking shit when they're upset, not the people who claim they hate any state authority, and likewise call all the cops around them fascists. No, the cops who usually receive an equal amount of hatred as Robinson was getting here, think Robinson is the problem, and force him to leave. Never mind that the whole Antifa thing is mostly just indoctrinated college students who made the mistake of taking a supposedly easy gender studies or racial studies class, and while there encountered an extreme leftist professor who lied to them and brainwashed them into being outraged, or that they themselves, being admitted post-structuralists, don't even believe in the movement they're purportedly a part of because organizing Antifa marches requires a whole bunch of fucking philosophical structure, now doesn't it? Never mind that all these videos on the internet show Antifa and like-minded lefties beating people and breaking property and calling for the death or subjugation of everyone they disagree with, including the cops. Robinson was the problem here. Or Milo Yiannopoulos was the problem there. Or Ben Shapiro was the problem here. Or Christina Hoff Sommers is the problem over there. The problem is never the angry, brainwashed crowd committing all the violence and disruption. It's gotta be the few people who are being threatened and attacked. Like all of those circumstances, it looked like the cops were happy someone else was there to tank the violent ire, distracting the angry crowd so they stopped fucking with the police. The established media are all liars and hacks. They wouldn't know the truth if it grew teeth, burrowed into their skulls, and began eating them from the inside out. They'd never know it was there, because they're too bent on pushing a bullshit PC, oppressor-oppressed narrative to ever even be interested in the truth. The cops in many cases seem to be in on it as well. These Antifa fucks directly state they hate cops and would like to harm them, but the useless cops, following the orders from their political higher-ups, puss out and all but kneel to the demands of the angry and violent crowd. These useless shill cops wouldn't know what law and order was if it grew an asshole and started shitting fetid waste on each and every one of their faces. They'd feel a warm wet sensation, but then dismiss it away because if you're covered in shit and you admit it, that's tantamount to thinking for yourself, and that's grounds for termination on most big city police forces. The establishment is wholly on Antifa's side. They're all too happy to allow the commie stormtroopers, in their black shirts with their gay little masks, to do the establishment's dirty work for them. These Antifa pieces of walking human garbage don't even know they're useful idiots for an establishment, using them as a cudgel to silence the actual adults who could bring forth some change in their society, who could threaten the establishment's golden goose of a welfare state which buys votes, and which allows corrupt politicians and unelected officials to quietly skim off the top of their taxpayer coffers and generate incredible wealth for themselves. All with the actual working and middle class's money, time, and resources. All for things which will benefit none of them. I don't even like Tommy Robinson. Many of the Free Press editorial staff are just as opposed to some of his ideas as they are to some of the more tamer lefty ideas. However, we have no choice but to back and defend Robinson, because he is the continuous victim of an actual canard to shut him up, injure him, and silence anyone the left disagrees with. A canard which nominally appears to be coming from crazy mobs running around cities and making them less safe, but really is coming from establishment political and media shills looking to protect their illegal and unethical nest egg. These stupid, useless cops need to be shamed into doing their jobs. They need to be reminded what they're there for: an ideal. A nation of laws, governing the people so it's safe to live and work there, and so people can contribute to their own well-being, which will vicariously contribute to their community's well-being. If you ignore some laws in favor of some corrupt politician's nonsense, you're doing it wrong. If you allow people who openly say they want to destroy you, your country, your way of life, and even the very notion of law and order upon which your entire job is predicated, you're doing it wrong. Until the cops start doing their job in protecting the regular citizens and the rule of law, instead of literal violent criminals running around like a crazy mob of panicking retards trying to out-virtue signal one another, I don't see this problem going away. I actually only see real and legitimate fascism emerging from it. Unless these dipshits start to sort that nonsense out, people like Robinson will keep growing in power and influence. Despite your efforts to shut him and others like him down, his movement is growing, and he is convincing a lot of centrist fence-sitters. Wake up, because you're not going to be able to sleep through this, or ignore it for much longer. Eventually, some Antifa mob are going to piss off basically everyone else who still believes in rule of law and civic virtue, and you're going to have a real fight on your hands. A fight that will shatter the societies it takes place in and around. A fight none of these useful idiots can win, but a fight which all of you will certainly lose. You've underestimated the backlash all this unrest is causing, and when it comes to strike you back, you're never going to be able to stand up to it. It's still only the regular, hardworking, and responsible people who give a fuck about society and law who are holding this shaky piece together. When you piss them off, and if it keeps going like this, you will piss them off, nothing will be there to hold it together anymore. It will explode in everyone's faces, and it will take everything with it. Make your choice to stop it now, before these angry mobs start killing people. That's the path we're headed down. And I'll guarantee right now, none of these snowflake fucks or their masters are ready for it.